So the usual commonalities, patterns, themes, and causes for extinction that we all come up with is usually taken from this list. And the first one is that there is a role of the human impacts. We'll get to that later, like the details of it. But then another one that everybody usually comes up with is something about climate change. And then the last one would be some environmental causes. For the environmental causes, you guys usually come up with things like drought, volcanoes, ice age, forest fires, the meteor that caused the dinosaurs to become extinct. So we'll put all of that in here. So droughts, so all that goes into environmental causes. Climate change could also go with some of those things. Like I know when the volcanoes erupted and the meteor crashed into Earth, that it caused all of that dust to pile up. But we're actually talking about like climate change is when like water levels change and carbon dioxide and oxygen levels change in the air. And on the roles of humans and human impacts, we can also kind of break down into different things like pollution. We've talked about poaching. That would be like hunting animals that are endangered or like going into Africa on safari and hunting like rhinos and elephants. And also overhunting goes with that. Obviously, hunting at its regular level, especially around like the Wisconsin areas, is to control a deer population. But overhunting or overharvesting can actually cause damage. So overhunting, overharvesting. And then habitat removal. So, so obviously, in general, we have come up with the commonality among our ideas about the causes of extinction. A lot of it has to do with the role of humans. So even some of these environmental causes could be impacted by the role of humans. Obviously, not things like a volcano or a meteor or things like that, but forest fires could be contributed, droughts may be contributed. So in box 5 now, we are going to think of specific ways in which we think humans have caused other species to go extinct. One example would be that humans have hunted several animals into extinction, so we can write that one down. Again, I want to be clear, this is over hunting or hunting too much or hunting species that are already endangered. Other things that you guys have already talked about that go along with hunting is poaching. Again, I'll put there. And the trade for furs. And when we were talking about, I can't remember, there was that one animal, the Sphinx macaw, the one in like Rio. So birds can be very pricey and people want to capture them and trade them for money. Also, we will talk about like some fur trades and things like that that go on. You guys have always told me or always been able to bring up deforestation or habitat destruction. And pollution. So this seems like a lot of like negative things, and I do want to talk about some human impacts in specificity or like specifically. So we did talk about the dodo bird. We brought it up a few times. It was in your quiz. Here's the dodo bird. It was a skeleton cast and model of the dodo bird at Oxford University Museum of Natural History based upon modern research. The dodo bird became extinct due to hunting, habitat destruction, and also an introduction of an invasive species into their natural habitat. Subfossil remains show that the dodo bird was about 3 feet 3 inches tall and may have weighed about 23 to 47 pounds. And though the dodo has historically been considered fat and clumsy, it is now thought to have been well adapted for its ecosystem. It had been depicted as a brownish gray plumage or feathers, yellow feet and tuft of tail feathers, a gray and naked head with no feathers on it, and a black, yellow, and green beak. It used gizzard stones to help digest its food, which is thought to have included fruits, and its main habitat is believed to have been in the woods in the drier coastal areas of Mauritius. One account states its clutch or its eggs consisted of one single egg, and it is presumed that the dodo became flightless because of the readily availability of abundant food sources and a relative absence of predators on Mauritius. And then the first recorded mention of the dodo bird was by a Dutch sailor in 1598. And then in the following years, the bird was hunted by sailors, and like I said, they brought in invasive species while the habitat was being destroyed. And because of all of these competing factors, the last widely accepted sighting of the dodo was in 1662, so it did go extinct. And then one other animal that you guys usually know about or tell me about is the woolly mammoth, or the mastodon. The comparison of a woolly mammoth and the American mastodon, so both, actually. For the mastodon, it seems fairly likely that these animals were hunted to extinction by early North American hunters, aka humans, though the effects were catalyzed by a shift in climate, the hunters did not help. The mammoths were more widely distributed, and a population may have existed off the coast of Alaska through the time of the ancient Egyptian civilizations. Fairly recent human history, this is what actually happened fairly recently, sorry. And as a side note, so mammoths did not exist during the dinosaur time. The extinction story for the mammoth is a bit more complicated, though it likely involved a combination between climate change and hunting. The climate change here was, of course, not impacted by the Industrial Revolution, and therefore was a natural climate change, not the type we're talking about now. But the combined power of the two factors is something that we are facing today. So another case of something that has been going on throughout history is the human impacts on wolves. So wolves were actually, or it's also known as Canis lupus, which is its scientific name. It's the gray wolf specifically, not just wolves. And they actually were nearly hunted to extinction in the United States during the 19th and 20th centuries. But due to some human efforts to protect species, we're going to talk about some ways that we know that humans can or have protected species. And we're going to specifically look at one species story to learn more about these factors that affect populations of wildlife, what might make them go extinct, and some of the ways in which humans may have prevented their loss. So some of the ways that people or other students have come up with is zoos. So the fact that zoos do a lot of research, they keep animals in captivity and they breed them and then try and release them back into the wild is some positive for zoos. I have a love-hate relationship with zoos. I do think some of the research and the conservation efforts that they do are really beneficial, but I also don't like the fact that the animals are in cages. Harsher laws for poachers. So making it less, making people want to poach less or go for big cat hunting, like going to shoot lions and stuff. Make it that less, likely, or like you don't want to do it because the harsher laws are going to make you not want to go out there and get caught. Creating animal sanctuaries. So there's a lot of like elephant and crane and lots of animal sanctuaries for animals that were either abused or in like the circus and things like that. So they try and rehabilitate the animals. They usually can't go back into the wild, but it is a safe space for them to kind of get back on their feet and get healthy. We can work on rebuilding habitats like planting more trees. And then lastly, going along with animal sanctuaries, some conservation efforts. To kind of keep the areas how they are and to make sure that we are protecting the land and the animals that are around us naturally.